Hello, and welcome to another fully live episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Kody Kinzie. I am a security researcher at Varonis, and today I'm here to take your ethical hacking questions, as well as talking about the upcoming Chaos Communication Congress and how to make a custom footprint if you want to make a PCB that uses a part that only has a datasheet available. So if you don't have that part, actually, if you want to use something that doesn't have a footprint for it, this was probably the scariest part of making one of my own SAOs or simple add-ons. So I had to learn how to do this, and I had a friend who does this all the time teach me a couple tricks that unfortunately use math and not intuition. So it was not my first instinct to go with this. So I'll teach it to you if you ever want to do this. But also, we're just going to talk about some cool hacker stuff today. So hello to everybody on the stream already. The Messenger, SAQ, and the Ugly LARP. Good to see all of you. I also have some exciting news. So as I've mentioned before, I'm going to this conference in Germany that I very much enjoy. It's probably one of my favorite conferences, and it's when I get together with all my friends and teach upwards of 300 students per conference about all these really cool beginner ethical hacker things. So not only am I planning on going with even more people than usual this year, I also had my first conference talk accepted. And this is a big deal for me because I've done talks at C3 before, but I've never done them like on the main stage. They've always been community talks, which are like hosted in a smaller subsection, which is still significant. And I got a really great response from my talk last year. So the fact that I'm going in a totally different, more technical direction this year is pretty exciting and cool. So my talk this year is going to be on Meshtastic. Now, I know you guys have heard a lot of that from me just because I love radios. I love off-grid sneaker nets, and I'm really interested in some of the security implications of all this stuff. I've already demonstrated hacking a computer from pretty far away using a Meshtastic-enabled bad USB device. So it is totally possible to do some pretty impactful things with Meshtastic. So I'm going to be doing a talk on getting started as a beginner, creating your own custom nodes, and then security, like how you can hack Meshtastic and things you can do to potentially either accidentally or on purpose disable or degrade network performance in a specific area, or even snoop on certain communications. So that's pretty interesting to me. I really want to figure out what types of attacks would be effective against this and then kind of report back to everybody else. So I've been currently active in a number of Discord communities that are talking about these sorts of security vulnerabilities. And some of them are surprisingly simple. Like recently, Meshtastic has allowed people to designate whether or not they're using secure communication or public keys by having a little lock icon. But some people have been setting their username to just have that lock icon, even though they're not using encryption. So everything is actually unencrypted. So some of these vulnerabilities seem pretty minuscule, maybe something that's just designed to like trick a user into having an insecure conversation. But it also encompasses a number of like misconfigurations that could accidentally make an area oversaturated with nodes that exhaust a certain number of hops that a packet is allowed to have before it can even leave an area. So we had some great conversations at the last SoCal MeshNet meetup. So if you were there and you're dropping by the stream, then hello. It was great to meet some of you. We've had 2 of them now at Null Space Labs, and I got to meet some people that are doing crazy stuff with Meshtastic, people who are like, creating infrastructure that a lot of other people are kind of building off of. So I've showed off how you can do all sorts of interesting things with LoRa and Meshtastic in general, and I'm excited to kind of present that to the community at Chaos Communication Congress. So yeah, super stoked to have my talk there, and it also means I have a lot of research to do. I basically want to kind of get as close as possible to the cutting edge research into Meshtastic vulnerabilities and where people are running into problems as they start to scale. So I am super excited about that. And if you like off-grid encrypted mesh networking, then turns out there's a lot of caveats with that. And I'm going to be talking about when things are encrypted and when they're not, and what kind of information is actually out there. From like a surveillance perspective, I thought it was really interesting, and we pointed out on the show how I could actually fly with a Meshtastic device that is transmitting my location and be able to track that from ground stations that are submitting that data to mapping services and be able to visualize my flight by when my transmissions were received. And on top of that, I was able to receive some of the contents of my transmissions, like trace routes. I could see which nodes I was requesting telemetry from, because that sort of information is not encrypted. So if you're interested in this sort of technology, it's really easy to get into. I also am attempting to make my own $10 build. So it's kind of a race to the bottom here to create the cheapest functioning Meshtastic node that can be built from parts that are easy to find. And I want to put together a build for the conference that is really, really cheap. Now, I'll probably have to maybe sell it for a little bit more than $10, but the goal is that the raw materials take $10 to build yourself. So I'm excited to do this talk. If you're going to be at Chaos Communication Congress in Hamburg, then please come to the talk. It's going to be exciting. And we'll also be announcing several workshops as well. It's going to get a lot of attention. And every time I've done this, it's been pretty cool. The only problem is that everybody in Europe uses a different frequency. So I'm going to have to get a bunch of different chips than I would in the United States. The LoRa radios here use 915 megahertz. The ones there use like 800 some megahertz. And they are not compatible, apparently. I will need different hardware. So to avoid committing numerous radio crimes in Europe, I'll need to make some purchases following this cool announcement that I was accepted. But yeah, again, this is really exciting. It's an honor to get to talk on the main stage of the conference, and I'm really excited to share with other people what it's been like to create custom LoRa nodes, kind of integrating Meshtastic with that, and what it was like on the software side, and then also some of these kind of advancements in security that have happened as vulnerabilities have emerged, sometimes just with accidental misconfigurations or kind of deliberate attacks against mesh networks. All right. Oh, I see that we've got some people accusing accusing others in the chats of being a Fed. Please, they're all welcome here. This is one, if they've got questions, I'm happy to answer. We're all just learning about hacking here. All right, so let me jump into something that I was scared to do. And this is on the hardware hacking side. This is kind of following up on the conference that I just finished up. And this is Hackaday SuperCon, which I very much enjoy. It's one of my other favorite conferences. And it's funny because one of my friends who is fantastic, he's been with us through a number of different conferences, was talking to people at Hackaday SuperCon and just kind of made the very natural assumption that this was another hacking conference and that it was focused on cybersecurity, and was like, hey, so do you work in cybersecurity, or are you just here for the food? And the guy he was talking to was like, no, I work in, I'm like an engineer, I work in hardware. And that was kind of the case. This is one of the only conferences I go to that is not really focused on cybersecurity, which makes it sometimes a weird fit because that's more of what I do. But I love getting new ideas from people who are pushing the boundaries of commercial off-the-shelf hardware. And I admit that there were things that I was excited about that were in the e-waste bin, where people would just bring their electronic waste. A lovely hacker named Tina brought a bunch of e-waste from her house, and everybody just scavenged through it and used all the components. But also I was kind of inspired by some of the new things that have come out around LEDs, around microcontrollers and other things there. So getting into this community was really fun. I had the challenge of building my own SAO, or simple add-on. And I have a design that everybody has been along the ride for me, kind of creating this design and learning how to use Kicad, however you want to pronounce it. But at the actual conference, with the help of some attendees, I will show off the actual badge that I had. So this is the Mr. Yuck badge. I realize now that this is a highly regional figure. This is apparently just like in Pennsylvania and the surrounding area. Mr. Yuck as a poison control symbol is not widely known, but it's one of my favorite symbols. I have a shirt with it on. I think that this is really funny, mostly because anecdotally, this was designed to replace the pirate kind of style of skull and crossbones that actually encourage children to seek out poisonous substances. This was scientifically designed to disgust children and make them think that they would get sick if they consume the substance inside, which is why it was so effective. So I decided to 3D print this glowing Mr. Yuck. I also used an RGB LED and just selected the green line and plugged it directly into the 3.3 volt line, which at the great expense of longevity to the LED, produced this incredibly bright green Mr. Yuck. And one of the attendees here actually painted the Mr. Yuck tongue fluorescent red, which was really cool. And as you can see, these QR codes are also being illuminated by ultraviolet LEDs. So that's that's what I ended up with. But this was the competition. There really was a ton of SAOs that were doing a number of exciting and interesting things, and seeing them all here together. One of mine is kind of up at the top that I also 3D printed and put together with the sticker, but it wasn't quite the same as the other ones. It was definitely when someone I met there named True was helping me out with it. He was so dismayed that my design wasn't even soldered together. I just heard the disappointment in his voice. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to use this. This is a side-mounted LED. This is from Adafruit, and I wanted to use it in my design. And this was the reason why I didn't get my design done by SuperCon. So let me explain. I'm a hacker, right? I'm a hardware hacker, and I want to use a new component in my design, and everything else is already in Kicad. I have gotten so lucky because most of the things that I want to use are included, and I want to be able to use this part that I found online, or in this case, I got it from Adafruit, and I physically have them here. I can verify these measurements, but this data sheet is intimidating. If I haven't done this before, it seems like there's like all these dimensions. It seems like some of these dimensions like are not included. Like I have the size of the package here. And aside from that, I really don't have too much information about, for example, how far away is this pad supposed to be from the outline? Does it matter? Is that important? I don't know. And what I was kind of told by Giovanni at Hackaday SuperCon was, while I was volunteering and getting some free advice on my hardware, was basically like, make your design, try to do the best you can, and then put it into Photoshop and try to like overlay one over the other. So overlay your like footprint design with the data sheet and see if they line up enough that this is going to work. If they're a tiny, super tiny bit off, like that's disconcerting because like it should be geometrically like perfect. But like if they still line up good enough, then you might not get the most, you know, maybe durable connection if it's off by a tiny bit, but at least you can see if you're in the ballpark. So that's kind of what I did. I tried to do it. And I like ignored like what I didn't have dimensions for. I very quickly realized this footprint is not 2x4. It is actually much larger. Like it means that this has to fit somewhere inside there. So all in all, this was like a little confusing to me. I didn't know exactly what was going on. So I tried to create my footprint. I lined it up, and guess what? It did not match at all. Not even a little bit. And it made me dismayed. It made me not want to continue doing this. So I found a way, and unfortunately, like I mentioned, it uses math to take a footprint for one of these electronic components I want to use and then make them into a footprint. And I also want to show off like why I think these are cool. I'll pull it up really quickly. And while I do that, I will also answer a question because yes, this show is live, and yes, it is a Q&A. So if you put in a question, I will do my best to answer it. Let me type this in really quick. Side-mounted NeoPixel Adafruit. All right, so the question is, how do I feel about Try Hack Me and Hack the Box's resources for learning? I think that overall, the biggest barrier to getting people to try this stuff out for the first time is an easy way of using the real tools that they're going to be using and doing the basics, you know, on something that is actually vulnerable and that they are legally allowed to use. I know a lot of people encounter their first vulnerabilities in school or in other places where it might not be appropriate to like continue their learning after they get kind of the first maybe opportunity or necessity-based vulnerability that they notice. So let's say that you're in school, maybe you find that the software your school is using is vulnerable and you use it to fix something or, you know, whatever you're gonna do. Like this is a scenario where if you were to continue your learning, if you were gonna keep attacking the school network, then you were going to get in increasing amounts of trouble if you were to get caught along that line of learning. So I think that as pathways for people to legally learn, like, you know, step after step after step of things where they're actually trying out the real vulnerabilities using the real software that they would be using in a professional environment, that is the kind of training I think we need more of and needs to exist in order to make people feel like they can try things out without getting in trouble. Often, you know, the mental excuse is, oh, like I had nowhere else to really try this. Like it was really fun and I wanted to continue doing it. It was just so easy. But the problem is, like, you know, we have some laws to protect researchers who like turn in, like vulnerabilities if they do it in good faith. But if you go too far or if you use it to your advantage or if you do other things, then it can actually just cause a lot of trouble for you. So I think that, yeah, making sure there's pathways to continue learning maybe after you have your first experience with hacking and not continue that learning in an environment where you could get in tons of trouble if you're detected or if you do something wrong. The damage you could potentially do to like a website or a service that you're poking around at. I have found all sorts of things like traffic control systems connected to insecure systems where you might just be poking around and then end up hitting something that takes down like a traffic network or something like that and cause tons of problems. So please don't do that. Things like Try Hack Me and Hack the Box, and also Portswigger Academy, as we've been showing off on some of our cloud hacking examples and labs, like those are all perfectly legal and very engaging ways to go up against real targets that are vulnerable and respond the way that a real target would. And you will never get in trouble for them. I think that that's why we need more stuff like that. Okay. So back to the demo just for a little bit. Let's and also, of course, always good to see Wax and Gibbous. Have to call out your fantastic screen name. Always gives me a morale boost. I want to create my own internet service provider by piggybacking off free hotspots using Meshtastic networks. Think it'll work? All right, so let's talk about this. Let's say that you wanted to make, and let me just say, I love that question because I love sneaker nets. So as somebody who's interested in creating like off-grid communication or networks of opportunity, this is a really interesting idea to me. So let's say that you were able to go around the city and put up a solar Meshtastic node within Wi-Fi range of a bunch of free networks. Now, these networks are already subject to pretty strict monitoring, and I think there was recently a law that was made, a surveillance law that was made where if you are providing a free service like Wi-Fi, you need to provide like the NSA, basically like access to some aspects of your data. And that means like, you know, it is being monitored in some aspects, and you should expect that these open networks are going to be like watering hole kind of scenarios where like certain attacks against these networks are inevitable and surveillance against these networks is definite. So with that being said, if you were able to place these Meshtastic nodes within range of open networks and then start routing traffic between them. So let's say you were able to create dynamic routes where you were able to send certain packets between certain routers or between certain open Wi-Fi networks, and you were able to process and exchange that information, it would be slow, but it would probably be very anonymous. So that is something that you could absolutely do if you wanted to create a sneaker net where a lot of people were actually like able to exchange information without it going over the traditional internet. And then you could kind of pop up in all these anonymous spaces, and that would be exciting. Wow, so exciting to get so much engagement. It's not my birthday though. But anyway, so I wanted to call out what is the source of my pain for creating this electronic design. So over here, I have, let me put this back up. All right, over here I have the side-mounted LED that is so cool and I've wanted to work with for a while. The reason being, I can do glow-through stuff. So look at this sucker. So this is able to glow through a printed circuit board and make this beautiful art. And we already saw this on the Hackaday SuperCon badges. They were able to create these incredible badges that had, or I guess they were like simple add-ons that glowed through the center, and they were using these side-mounted LEDs. And that's because like this kind of PCB art isn't super common. So if we want to use something like this, then it would be relatively difficult to have this LED mounted straight down, even though we can create a design in Kicad that allows you to do a glow through board that like depends on an upside down LED. So far, the only ones that are commercially available are single color LEDs. So red, green, blue. My friend Make It Hacken has made a number of these incredibly beautiful boards, one of which is a tricorder, which looks incredibly cool. And they use these kind of reversed single color LEDs. I wanted to use these side mounted ones. And again, this is now the source of my pain because I have this data sheet that I have to work off of, and I have like all these measurements, and I have ADD. So I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to these sorts of measurements. So my friend taught me a trick to doing it, and it's going to make it easier for any of you who want to use something like this in your own project. So let me get this back up, and we'll talk about measurements on data sheets and how to do this in Kicad. So I did this shortly before. I want to show you the result of that. So this is the result where everything is spaced properly, or maybe this is, I think this is. And the way that I did this was setting the origin of this to basically the center of the pad, and then referring to this data sheet in order to make the necessary calculations to place each one on an x-axis. That is so boring to me to say out loud, but I have to say this saved me like an hour of my ADD brain just like running around in circles and screaming because it didn't understand why nothing was measuring up. So I also want to shout out. Oh, wait, one of these is Photoshop. That's why. All right, so this is the result, okay? So this is the data sheet. That's my pad. This is the data sheet. That's my pad. This is how I know that all of my suffering was for a reason. And the fact that these all line up more or less, and these all can be placed together means that I actually, through listening to my friend talk, did indeed figure out how to actually use Kicad to do this. So if I can do this, you can do this because I'm terrible at math. So let's go through how I was able to make this happen. All right, so in Kicad, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make a new footprint. So it's just going to ask me if I want to do SMD, or the alternative is a through hole design. But in this case, we want to do SMD. We're going to be soldering these little suckers. And if you look at them, where'd it go? Where did it go? Here it is. If you look at them, they're little side mounted solderable ones. So these can be machine. Oh, they're so cool. Actually, look at all the circuitry and stuff that exists on the inside of these. Like I continue to be amazed how most electronics are just miniaturized electronics from the 80s and 90s, just shrunk down to be like incredibly tiny. But anyway, so yeah, these are really small. Like they're designed to be soldered by machines. Humans can do it, and we'll need to adjust our soldering pads a little bit in order to make that remotely at all possible. But that's what we're doing here. We're going to use these little guys. So these are SMD. We're going to press OK. And footprint must have a name. Fine. Security forward demo. And I love a good demo. Well, I'm sure that this will work out just fine. Yeah, I'll save the changes. I don't care. Yep. Okay. So, all right, so we have a completely new design. There's nothing here, and we're going to try to make something. Now, what my friend taught me is that we should move this stuff out of the way. So let's get it out of the way. And then the center origin point is going to be where we build all of our stuff. So we're going to put down a pad, and basically we're going to go through and we're going to add all the pads that this little teeny tiny electronic device requires, and we're going to do that first. So at the origin point, my friend actually recommended kind of doing this so that the edge of the pad is right there and we don't have to cut this in half. I'll explain what that means in a second, but I'm just going to do it in the center because I'm an idiot. And like, as soon as I started taking this off the side, like changing the grid size and all this other stuff came into play, and it just became like a lot less fun. And there was like a million other things I would prefer to do. All right. So this is the grid size that we can adjust. And depending on how we want to space things, this allows us to make things snap to certain sizes on the grid. Oh my God, there we go. So we're gonna make a pad, and by clicking here, I can select a pad, and then we need to make sure that this pad is the correct size for what we wanna do. So here I can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4 pads, and literally none of them are the same size. Thank you so much, manufacturer. That is fantastic for us. So even though each one of these pads could be, completely evenly sized, maybe it's supposed to be like keyed, so you can't put it in the wrong way. I don't know why they did this. If you're an electrical engineer and you're in the chat and you know why they did this, please let me know, because I find it frustrating. But anyway, here's what we're up against. Okay, like this measurement to the edge here apparently doesn't matter, so we're going to ignore it. It doesn't matter. This first pad is going to be 0.8 by 0.75 millimeters, and then it is going to be 0.45 away from the next one. The next one is going to be 0.8 by 0.6. Why? Okay, whatever. And then it is going to be 0.38 millimeters away from the next pad. Why? Why? Why can't they be the same distance apart? I don't know. It doesn't matter. So next up, we have this pad that's going to be 0.8 by 0.4. Why? Again, like these could be the same size, but they're not. So then we have, again, 0.38. So we have one matching measurement. So as somebody who's trying to like make sense of all this, I was just like, why? Like, explain to me the reason why all these measurements are different. It doesn't matter. Don't burn your brain on it. Let's just ignore it. It doesn't, who cares? So this is 0.38 away. And then we finally have this 0.8 by 0.8, a perfect square. Why? Why can't this one be a perfect square? I don't know. Again, it doesn't matter. So that's where we're at. We're going to be, key design ensures you don't short something. Yes. See, I knew that there's a reason for this, but because nobody was able to immediately explain it to me, for somebody who's just trying to like get all the pads to fit together and is uncomfortable like drawing like a bunch of weird shapes, it was definitely something that confused me. So like I also want to say I'm focusing this on just getting the spacing right on all the essential pads and stuff. There's a couple other steps you would want to do in order to dress this up and make sure it's ready to be a component. And I've covered some of these in a previous stream when we created just a super basic like screen component that had like 4 holes and talked about spacing those in a really easy way. So let's do this one. All right. Oh, God, I hate math so much. Okay. So this one, I'm going to right mouse click and do properties. And this is the one where I want to make sure that the first one is 0.8 by 0.75. So the pad size is way too big. We need this by 0.8 by 0.75, 0.8, 0.75. And then we see like what the preview looks like. Wow. And we can see, 0.8, friends, not 8, 0.8. No, 0.75. What are we doing here? Okay, there we go. That's a little scary. All right. So, and if we want a refresher on which is which, we can always, elongate it in one direction. It's like, okay, so that's the width, and that's the one that needs to be 0.75. And then this needs to be 0.8. Okay. So now we've got our pads to be correct, and the position is 0, and we're going to also set it to 0. So at that point, it is perfectly centered. Error. Pad must have a positive size. Okay. Yeah, sure. Oh, right. Yeah, I'll just cancel this for now. Reason being, like, I shouldn't be setting the position yet until I actually set the properties. So again, I'm just going to double check. This is 0.75 and 0.8. Okay, so that's what I need to do in order to set this. I'm going to set it again exactly in the center here. Is that in the center? Yeah, that's in the center. And then I can set the second pad. The second pad, I'm going to right mouse click, properties, and this one needs to be 0.8, and then the width needs to be 0.6. Why? I don't know. Okay. And then I'm just going to place this, and we'll figure out the actual, like, how far apart they're supposed to be in a second. Next one. This one is going to be skinny. This one's going to be 0.4. Would tolerance be a factor here? Let's see. Okay, I will check in on the comments in just a second. I'm so close to having this next step in. All right, so last one is going to be a square, 0.8 by 0.8. All right. Okay, so now I have everything aligned, and it's all aligned on this axis. And what I can do is I can start selecting each one and calculating how far away it's supposed to be. Now, in the measurements here, we know that this first one is supposed to be 0.45 away. So what we have to do is we know that everything is centered on the center of this pad. So we have to do this math. And again, I am not great at math, so we're going to do all this out. And I hope this gives hope for people who are just as bad at math, but hopefully less bad at math than me. So first we have the pad itself. We need half of that pad. So we have 0.75 divided by 2. And that's the distance between the center of the pad and the edge of the pad. Then from the edge of the pad here, we add 0.45. And then finally, we have this next pad. So this next pad should be centered as well. So that should be half of this. The 0.6, I'm just going to, I don't need to divide that by 2. Even I can figure that out. That's 0.3. So if I add 0.3, then I should get the result I need, which seems totally off from what I was expecting. So I think I did something wrong. I'm sorry. As I said, I hate this. All right, so we have 0.75 divided by 2, and that gets us the pad. Then we add 0.45, and then we add 0.3. Yeah, there we go. That seems so much more reasonable. So 1.125 millimeters is going to be where we place our second pad. I really hated that. So I hope you did too. Anyway, so we have this. I'm going to right mouse click it. Properties, and then for our position here, I'm going to set this at 1 point. What was it? I already forgot. 1.125. Now, this is where just by like changing the grid size and dragging and dropping it, I could never get these two pins to proper, or these two pads to be the proper distance away. So let's try it. So if I go here and here, by the way, if you use Kicad all the time, why did this get so big? But anyway, here we go. So we have 0.45. Is that what it's supposed to be? I pray. 0.45. It's actually accurate. You have no idea how much of a release this was for me. Even though the math sucks and I don't like it, it still means that there's some sort of logic I can use to put these pads the right distance apart. So the pads are the right size. They're now, two of them anyway, are the right distance apart. So let's calculate the final couple pads, and we will end on a good note. And then we'll just draw this little box around it, and then we'll be kind of good. So the first one, right position. The second one, right position. Let's do the third one. All right, so this third one, in order to move it to the correct position, we'll need to take the pre-existing measurement. And what my friend showed me also is you can be lazy and just like do the calculation in here. So 1.125, I believe was the calculation. Yes, it is. Plus, oh my God, can you believe that we can just do this? All right, so we have this. We need another 0.3. So we'll do 0.3. Do you see how toxic these calculations can get very quickly? Like you can summarize some of them or whatever. All right, so we have 0.3, and then we're going to add 0.38. And then 0.2 to get to the center of this pad. And then when I click out of this, it should work unless I really mess something up. This is actually pretty far away from me, so it's kind of hard to see. All right, so we have 1.15 plus 0.3 plus 0.38. Is there a point? Yes, 0.38 plus 0.2. Okay, let's see if it does it. Usually, if it calculates it correctly, it'll. No, that was totally wrong. All right, let's look at it again. Again, this is A, fun for demos, always happens, and B, something that happens every single time I try to do a demo. All right, so I'm going to select this one. I'm going to get its position. And then we're going to calculate one more time. By the way, if you're good at math and this is just killing you, I'm so sorry. But this was my biggest handicap towards actually making my first design, was how annoying this was and how little I knew about it. All right, so again, from here we have 0.3. Is this working? I also want to just double check. Yeah, okay, it totally does work, but only if I format it correctly. So 0.3, I guess I just misformatted it. And then 0.38. Still working? Yeah, okay, that's working. Just making sure. And then we have 0.2. Okay, that seems to have worked this time. What I did differently, I do not know. So let's see whether or not that was accurate. From point to point, gigantic. That is 0.38. And what is it supposed to be? 0.38. Okay, we did it. So I'm going to do the final one. Hopefully it's less painful. Again, I'm sorry. If you're really good at math, then this must be like the worst demo you've ever seen. But if you have never made your own custom footprint before and the math has been, or getting everything aligned has been what's intimidating, using a footprint for the first time was not easy. I found it super annoying. So, okay. All right. So that's also what I think is funny when I take my like toxic, just like calculation here that's like partially summarized or whatever. When I try to copy it, sometimes it'll copy the whole equation and I'm reminded of all the math debt I've accumulated by just like doing it all there. All right. So the final component, or the final pad on this component, position, we're going to start with our last position. And then referring to the data sheet, we have, it's going to be 0.2 plus 0.38. And then I'm sorry, I will check the comments in a second. I just have to be locked in on this or I will do it so incredibly wrong. And then this one's 0.8 by 0.8. So that's going to be 0.4 is half of that. Let's see if it calculates. All right, we got that. We got this. And then let's check to see whether or not this was correct. I did that math very fast, which is always a bad sign. Here we go. Here we go. And that should be 0.38. And that's 0.38. All right. So checking one more time. We have measurement from here to here, which is no. There we go. 0.4. I don't know why it's still displaying that this one. I wish it wouldn't. Please stop. Please don't do that. Please go away. Okay, great. All right, so this is correct. Sorry, let me pull the measurement tool up again. This one here to here is also correct. This one here to here is also correct. So that means that we've successfully placed this. I can now set my grid size to, let's set it to 1. I can make a box that is, I know that this is, I'll set it to 0.5, so I have a little bit more flexibility to draw here. So I've got, it's going to be 4 by 2 is going to be the size of my component. And then I can also maybe change this grid size a little bit to a little smaller and move this around a little bit to center it a bit more. And there we go. So now the last note that I would make here is, one, I need to make this directional. So I need to make some sort of indication that, you know, which side is which. So that could be a silkscreen marker. It could be like a line right here, whatever. I just need to indicate like where, like which side this goes on. The other thing is, now that I've successfully done this, I'm going to pat myself on the back. And if a machine is soldering this, then this should be fine. However, if a human is soldering this, then it is not fine. And instead, I would want to change some of the things here. So can I edit these all at the same time? I don't think I can. So instead, I'm going to select one. And let's say that I want to make this human solderable. What I would do is go to properties, and I would literally just double the height. So that if it's supposed to be 0.8, let's say that I make it 1.6. And I would go through and I would do this with all of them. And what that is going to do is it's going to extend, they'll all still be the same distance apart, but it'll be able to kind of peek out from the side, and you'll actually be able to touch this with the soldering iron and actually solder it in place. So I talked with my friend about this, and like they were like, yeah, like you kind of just got to decide like how much room you want to have to hand solder these, if that's what you're going to do. So for this little demo, I just wanted to just say, if you get to this step and everything is properly aligned and you've made your own component off of a data sheet, which is the scariest thing to do here, then you can use one of these glorious new components that maybe you've seen other people use and you want to use for the first time. I need to go through and I need to go and then label which pins are which, but this should at least get the hardest part of the data sheet out of the way. I'm gonna like start responding to people's comments because there's so many of them now, but I just wanted to point this out as something that I was really scared to do for the first time and then ended up being not as hard as I thought. So this is my component. I need to go through and then continue to make each one of these pads larger if I want to make it hand solderable, and then I'll save this. And I also need to make like a keep out region to make sure that no other components or nothing or no silk screen gets placed here. But yeah, so aside from that, this is mostly where I want it to be. And that was the hardest part for me. So if you're making your own component for the first time, hopefully this is something that helped you a little bit. All right, so I'm going to go back through the comments. Sorry, guys, that was a longish demo. But as I said, I'm terrible at math, and it's the #1 thing that's kind of put me off of designing my own electronics. So finding a couple ways to create a footprint that are like repeatable, like that kind of like, you know, center it on the axis and then just do the math to kind of align everything. I was aligning everything manually by snapping it to the grid size, and it did not go well. By the time I was done, I was so discouraged, I didn't want to try it again for a couple days. So shout out to Zach for helping me get through that problem and showing me the proper way of doing it. All the information in the data sheet is a little bit confusing if you're doing it for your first time. So hopefully this will encourage someone else to try making their own electronics from a data sheet that they see and don't necessarily have in hand. All right, so I have been using the Bamboo P1S and also the A1 for a couple of weeks now. And I just wanted to kind of come back in and mention what I like and what I dislike about it. So the A1, I think, is honestly a steal. It is a really good deal. I got the AMS system with it, and I was able to create things for SuperCon that I thought were really detailed, really cool. It was a simple system to manage, and it hates glow filaments. A glow-in-the-dark filament does not get along with it. But once I put in the proper kind of material settings for the glow filament, it started to feed a little bit better and I had less trouble with it. But I've definitely been servicing my Bamboo printers. They do jam, they do clog, there are problems. My P1S upstairs is currently jammed because the filament broke off inside, and I have to figure out how to remove it, which is a different process from what I'm used to. So there definitely are problems. It is not a flawless system, but it is pretty impressive, and it does, when it's working properly, really return some excellent results. So there's lots of applications to these kind of multi-material prints. I've been kind of going over some of them, and one of the most obvious one is creating custom signs. Creating luminous signs or creating glow-through things is also super possible. So if you're making diffusers, or if you're making things that are designed to be glow-through, or that use special materials like glow in the dark or change color changing, this is really crazy. It really is a game changer for how you can make something look really beautiful and really high quality. Now, I'm going to be starting to use some of the unusual nozzles. So I'm going to be talking about how you can make it work much faster with a 0.8 millimeter nozzle, or you can really get some fine detail in with a 0.2 millimeter nozzle, probably starting next week. So some of the applications I've also seen is making these really small, high detail designs. And that's something that people seem to be willing to pay for, because these designs are highly durable. They're able to be printed in whatever material you want. So if you've been using the Bamboo system for a while, or if you're just getting one, please let me know what your experience is. I printed some pretty crazy stuff with it, including getting a full face mask for Halloween, which I was able to paint and make look really cool in 5 hours. This is a full like 3 or 4 hours faster than my Prusa was able to print the exact same mask design, and it looked pretty good. After being painted, it was pretty cool. So yeah, I would say if you're looking for a nice 3D printer, I've so far had pretty good interactions, but again, it's not flawless. It does involve a little bit of fixing. I feel sorry for all you electronic engineers. Yes, I've dipped my toe in electrical engineering enough to know that if you don't do the right math, you get punished pretty quickly, and that you can't just kind of feel out some of these situations. It really does rely on having like a process for looking at information and turning it into another type of information. The manufacturer needs to make something. So that's why Hackaday SuperCon was very inspiring to me this year. Being able to see other people overcome that hurdle just made it it's not optional that I don't finish this SAO design. Like, I have to do it. Like, I've invested so much time already and seeing other people's designs, and also making mine at the last minute and having people still like it. I was like, okay, thank you for that. I needed the morale boost, but I'm definitely not tapping out on just having, you know, like a 3D printed design. Generally 1 millimeter grids are good enough for most cases. I know. And that is the case, I think, for a lot of different same designs. For example, in my last demo where I was showing off Kicad, I was using a pretty simple, like evenly spaced out grid where it could be done very simply, and it wasn't so complicated. But when you have like a data sheet that's a little bit confusing, and to me, as a beginner, this data sheet was a little bit confusing. It was really helpful to have everything snapped onto the x-axis in a way that allowed me to just use simple math to make sure that I was getting those distances correctly. Because sometimes like snapping by like 0.38 millimeter is just like, you know, it's just weird, and like it took a little bit more time and thought than I expected because of the way it was actually measuring things. So anyway, just wanted to make that a little bit more accessible for anybody who is bad at math and wasn't getting the right results when they were trying to snap to the grid, because I tried and I was just, something about it was just not working out. When I tried to get everything lined up, it just didn't work. The zoom feature on Kicad is a little wonky. Yeah, every once in a while, but it's not so bad. All right, one question. I've had over 300 rejection emails with Google IT and cybersecurity certifications. I'm about to get my A+ and then security. However, I'm worried with so many tech layoffs, I might not get into my dream career. Any tips to help stand out? That's a really good question. And I know it's a tough job market sometimes when you're looking for, especially like fields in cybersecurity that either have a lot of competition or just aren't hiring strongly at that moment. There's so many different areas within cybersecurity. Like, one of my immediate recommendations is just make sure that there's no like other jobs that your skill set could still do within cybersecurity that might be hiring more strongly, or might be a role where you learn something but have the core skills to perform really strongly. That's kind of one thing. But the other, yeah, it's really difficult when it comes to standing out against other applicants who are all going after the same job. One thing I would note is that some of my friends who have explored opportunities with speaking, whether that's talking about topics you've recently learned and teaching other people about them, or like hosting your own events to turn around and teach other people like things that you've recently learned and that you think are like cool or exciting or foundational. These sorts of, I guess, like public outreach and like even just like photos or videos of you teaching other people really make it look like you know enough about a topic to speak comfortably about it, and you're helping others get where they want to go. I found that, having been in a hiring situation, and then also having applied against other applicants, like I've always both noticed applicants who are doing community work, or kind of like give special consideration to people who have either a mastery of a subject or are willing and able to explain that to other people who are also trying to get there. It doesn't require you to be an expert with a high-paying job in order to provide value to like your own community. And sometimes when you've racked up all these things, like, and you have all these accomplishments that people aren't quite factoring into your job skills, like some of the best ways you can do it is to just visualize it for them. Where is this valuable? What kind of people want to be learning about this? And any sorts of opportunities to either do like a workshop or a talk at a conference, even a small local conference, or even just like organizing meetups or anything you can put on your resume that shows that you're invested in, the community or helping out the community. Like that kind of, I think, distinguishes you, like aside from just the work side of things, if that hasn't quite come together yet, into someone who not only consumes information and absorbs it, but also kind of helps other people understand it too. I found anyway that has helped me stand out. Maybe it might help you too. I'm late to class. What's Kody teaching us today? Yeah, so I was talking about how if you want to make your own electronics, the scariest part might be getting one of these data sheets that doesn't quite make sense or is a little bit difficult to understand, and how I, as somebody who was not very good at math, really needed a system to figure out how to space everything, the correct amount of parts, and make a component that I can actually use. So I did kind of a bare bones version of it, but it did show the trick that my friend taught me for getting everything lined up on the x-axis and making it so that yeah, so it's not as scary and as difficult as I thought, because my first results were pretty bad and disappointing, and I wanted to show off. Would tolerance be a factor here? Oh wait, I already addressed this. Key design, ensure you don't short something. Yeah, so I was asking why every single pad was a different size and spacing, and yes, the answer, to be clear, is that if you put it in backwards, then like nothing should line up properly, and it should give you a warning that something's going on there and that you are about to fry your component. Let's see. I created a Raspberry Pi hat for a company I work for to make waste material counting. So one thing that is, it's always your birthday when practicing OPSEC. That is fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So one of the things that is kind of regrettable about these new printers we've been talking about is the fact that they waste a good amount of material. And that's because on every layer, when they're doing a color change, they are going to be purging material. So if you, let's say that you have a box and you want to paint one side of that box green and the rest of it's going to be all black. There's two different ways of doing this when it comes to 3D printing with one of these new bamboo printers. You could turn it on its side and have the green side on its face, like facing towards you. And that would cause a tremendous amount of waste. Every single layer, it would need to purge itself at least twice, once for the black filament and once for the green filament. So it would be creating a lot of waste. If you just flipped it though and had that green side on the bottom, then suddenly it needs to do like 2 maybe green layers to get that color, and then the rest of the entire cube is black, and it only purges the filament maybe like twice or something like that. So depending on the way you slice these, it can create a ton of waste. And it's something where if you're not paying attention, you can really make it so it's almost 50-50 material and waste. So if you're trying to be efficient with 3D printing material, getting control of how much waste you're generating is a really useful and interesting metric. And it's something that I think a lot of people will be interested in keeping track of. Don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, but yes, absolutely. That is something that I'm interested in. Has to be Kody's birthday today. Why is it not my birthday today? Take this for celebration right now. I accept it. No, I really appreciate it. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I accept them. I have like at least 3 public birthdays, because ever since I've started signing up for things since I was a teenager, I would always use a couple of fake birthdays, and that has been like data breached and rolled into a package where if you look at my birthday, it's often like a year wrong in my favor, and also on the complete wrong day. So I get a ton of automated celebrations on a different day. I'm not going to give it away my fake birthday, but it has been, I think, almost 2 decades now that the majority of the time my birthday is wrong, and I get a lot of celebrations. So thank you for creating a 3rd fake birthday. I think that that is necessary to update and secure my OPSEC, and I appreciate and accept the forced celebration. Thank you, every single one of you. I hope that you enjoyed my incredibly dry demo on how to make electronic components into PCBs in response to all the enthusiasm. I feel like I really put a damper on the celebration. By the way, I ordered some ESP32s. Fun times ahead. Yes, I have been so into these ESP32 based microcontrollers. I went over a bunch of these new ones that I got that are less than $5 each, have some really interesting tech in them. Most of them support Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Some of them also native USB, and then like Zigbee and Fabric and some of these other protocols that are becoming more popular for like mesh networking or IoT devices are also supported directly on them. So that's some of the new ones. The good old-fashioned ESP32 alone is fantastic, though. It has so many projects that support it. So, yeah, it is absolutely something. Electronic engineering is a bit not forgiving than an electrical. Get something wrong with electrical engineering and someone might die. More forgiving. Yes. Yeah, so I would say that when electrical engineering is definitely more like you can be a little bit wrong on like these tolerances on the grid that I'm working on or whatever, and it'll still like work. It's just not great. You just can't short things. And there are a lot of conditions from which you can make very serious mistakes and still recover. You would be amazed at the kind of things that electrical engineers do to fix their mistakes in, you know, small batches and small runs and stuff. And that includes like forgetting to ground a trace and having to scratch a little hole and like connect each one to ground. Like, these sorts of mistakes can kill a design, but then allow it to be revived with a appropriate amount of fixing work. So yes, electrical engineering, and I do understand what you meant there, is a little bit more forgiving than some of the other things, like actually calculating the electronic values and working with high voltage. Yeah, so I've definitely got more notice volunteering at conferences and local DEF CON groups and gearing my own channel towards InfoSec has helped. Yes, that is a super valid and very good advice. If you're struggling to stand out and you're able to, I wasn't even thinking volunteering at like local groups, but I'm literally thinking of someone who she's been volunteering at conferences constantly. I see her all the time. I know she's super active. And like my first thought now is like, I want to work with her because I know she's a self-starter. I know she's involved in the community. I know that even just working with her, like I now have access to all these great people she's met and that also know her. So like, you know, just thinking of people that have like stood out like over the last like year or two, like I can think of a couple that have been volunteering at conferences and just getting known for like, you know, just being like super helpful and there and part of the community. And it really does have a trajectory on their careers. I can tell you, like, I would absolutely hire them just because like I know who they are. They've been around and like, you know, I know that they are integrated into the cybersecurity community by choice in a way that's a contributor. And that's a big deal. Let's see. Is there a security forward Discord? Kind of, sort of. If you go to, I think nugget.dev is the best way to get to it at the moment. You'll find our Discord link there. There was never an official security forward one, but we've been running a Discord server for a long time, and we're happy to have people from the show jump on. And so it's kind of become the official, unofficial security forward Discord. So I'll drop the link. But yeah, it does have a great group of people who have tipped me off to a number of things before anybody else has. I think Zam and then just there's a lot of people that have kept me on the forefront of cybersecurity news, showed me off some cool tools. And also, I just want to point out this stream, I'm actually in a bath right now. This is my Pickle AI avatar, and it's been lip singing this entire show. So pretty incredible that I'm actually just, you know, basically swimming around right now. And none of you have noticed this whole time that it's AI. That's actually not true. Sorry. I was looking into this because one of our commenters was showing this off both on the stream and then also in our Discord server, kind of a nice segue. And I was excited to try it. I looked it up and I wanted to see whether or not it was worth trying out. I even was considering putting up some money because it was like $30 a month or something to try. And then I saw the demos, and the demos, let's just say, were not, they didn't make me want to spend $30. So let me show off this service again. And kind of remind people what this was. So Pickle AI was promising that you could be jogging or nude or, you know, doing whatever, you know, raising your child, whatever it is. And you could look like you were talking because this puppet is listening to your voice and like swaying convincingly and making eye contact and gesturing with hands. And this does not look the way that, like, this is the only demo I saw that looked good. I saw also that there was a lot of like review bombing where like there's lots of people being like, proud pickle user, game changer, I was nude the whole time and no one knew. But aside from the obvious risks here of, you know, your camera just like going to the regular one, the demos that I saw on YouTube after diving in looked really bad. They looked really bad. They looked like a puppet face that kind of swayed back and forth, and then the mouth just kind of like went like this. So no, I am not a AI avatar yet. I did consider trying that for the stream, but after looking at it, you guys would have realized immediately it looks ridiculous. So I'll pull up some more demos. They did not look as convincing as I was hoping. If I do find a legitimate like AI host avatar, I will absolutely try that. And you can try to catch me doing it. But so far, no, I didn't think I even had a single chance. Even if I kept myself in a small window, I don't think you guys would have realized. Although it would have been funny to try doing the bath. I might try that someday if we do get a good AI avatar. But you'll never know. So it'll be my secret. All right. Nuded raising your child while doing a Teams meeting. That's the overemployed dream. Yeah, that kind of seems to be the dream here, is like where people are trying to find like convenience hacks where you can like appear to be someone else. But hey, here's the, or at least like yourself just not busy and distracted with your like second or third job or something like that. But the this also goes to some of the cybersecurity news we've talked about, where like North Korean spies or North Korean IT workers are like trying to get jobs in the United States and then refusing to go on camera on Teams meeting. If they just sign up for something like this, then, you know, like theoretically anyway, they could go on Teams and it would be, you know, maybe low resolution and not very convincing, but at least they have a shot of saving this job they've invested all this time in, and now people are trying to crack down, because it turns out a fair amount of these job seekers are also actually secretly not supposed to be working in the United States. All right, so that is just about all the time we have for today. Yeah, we've been live about an hour. So thank you everyone for the questions. I have even more that I wanted to go through that I think I have up on here. I might try to do one or two if we can do it. Just because it's really cool how many comments I've seen. Oh, all right. So a couple other things I did want to show off right before I finish up for today. If you know TikTok, then you know that there's kind of a fight going on always for like the sassiest comment, you know, at the very top of a popular video. So there's the viral content itself, and then there's the people who are responding to that that then get a bunch of upvotes and whatever, and people go to their profile, and that's how spam accounts can be created. So this has now gone AI. Like I've noticed that in a lot of posts, there's these like these AI bots that are outing themselves by responding in a deadpan fashion to like, you know, satire posts. So The Onion posted a video about Taylor Swift being arrested on weapons charges, which obviously did not happen. However, a number of these bots then replied and were being like, looks like Taylor is dealing with some legal issues. It's surprising to hear that she had a gun on her tour bus. So these AI bots have like, you know, like repeatedly outed themselves by not really having a sense of humor or not being able to detect satire. And they will watch a video or try to understand it by like looking at the comment. It's not really clear which, and then try to post a like top ranking comment. And in this case, people just thought it was so funny that like this bot misunderstood the situation that they voted it up. But I think that the AI war for this top comment spot on like a number of different platforms is going to heat up, and you'll never know if commenters are now bots that are vying for that top commenting slot or if they are legitimate posters. I mean, that was kind of already a thing, but it's a bit more now. And of course, in my free time, I put a glowing, fully functional and accurate 3D printed clock into a storm drain tunnel. So whoever sees that, hopefully it is still keeping accurate time. This is actually a kit that comes with the bamboo printer, and the actual original print looks a little lame. So I decided to make something that was a little bit more spicy just because, you know, why not? All right, so posting a couple things. And this is where I also like, I never know if people are real or not anymore. Like sometimes I feel like an AI will read the comments on the video or just read the description and then leave the most generic comment possible. So I'm going to give you a heart, but I don't know if you're real. Open source SDR lab has the new PortaPack H4M. Yeah, see, this is how I keep current with like new hardware and stuff. So I'm going to check this out. Thank you very much. We have a conspiracy theory. Getting a lot of those. I'm not going to give you a heart. I'm sorry. I've had too many of these lately. And this is in response to a disaster waiting to happen. Nuclear facility called Voldemort for its extensive security lapses and almost inevitable status as a problematic entity has been fined a good amount of money. And yeah, it is absolutely something that people are interested in, even people who don't believe that nuclear weapons exist. Black Arch has a lot of tools, but I can't find how to use tools. I will work on that. I am going to do some more tools-based stuff. I'll give you a heart. Thank you for commenting. You guys have a Discord server. Thank you for reminding me. I will post that in the comments here just to make sure everybody sees it. In fact, why don't I do it now? Why delay? In fact, I will add that Discord server. Thank you to everyone that keeps reminding me of that. Here is a link. It will expire, but at least you have it immediately during the show. Yeah, and again, like, thank you to everybody in the Discord server that's been giving me ideas, showing me different things that I might have missed. There is a lot of news out there that, frankly, I just don't see on a weekly basis, especially when it comes to like some of these interesting tools. Pickle AI, not one of them. Fully clothed, actually in the studio. I'm sorry, guys. It's going to be a while, I think, until we have an AI avatar that can just listen to your voice and lip sync so well. I kind of believed it if it was able to see your face. So you could be like doing something else, but if it saw your face, then it could sync to that, and that might look convincing. But no, absolutely not. I don't think that the current version of this is anywhere remotely convincing. So if you're looking to save your job while doing something else, I don't think this is going to be the solution for you. All right, everyone. Thank you for hanging out. I also really appreciated the comments this time. Got a lot of great questions. Got a lot of highly knowledgeable people in the stream that were contributing. So thank you for that. That's why I love doing this. If you want to support the stream, you can always go to varonis.com/Kody. That's Kody. It doesn't cost you anything, and it lets Varonis know you appreciate the stream and you want us to go live twice a week, every week. Yeah, and we're going to keep doing it. Oh, hello. So we'll see everybody on Friday. I'm going to be trying out something new and do a little short social media recap of the news this week. So stay tuned for that. Kind of excited to do it. And I will be going through the news on our hourly stream on Friday. So see you around 2:30 Mountain Time. Good to be back in the Treasure State, also with a full studio instead of having to break down and set up everything individually every time we go live. So that's why I like it here. All right, everyone. I will see you on Friday. Thanks for hanging out. Goodbye.